Hello, hello, and welcome back to Sikich Live. I am your host, Mike DeGeeter, coming to you here from the beautiful city of Chicago, Illinois. Our guests today, Debbie and Joe, are going to join us in just a minute. Now, today's topic is all about Microsoft for manufacturers. So if that's something that you're interested in, which I'm going to guess as many of you, we are going to get to that today, and you are in the right place. But before we get to that, don't forget to like and subscribe to get notifications every week for Sikich Live. We are here each Thursday at 2:30 Central Time. Now, Sikich Live has looked a little bit different lately, and with that, we decided to revamp, of course, this experience to make this more engaging and valuable for our audience. Now, each Sikich Live show will feature 3 sections. We're going to start with fact or fiction. What's truth? What's lies? Traditional Q&A like we've always done, and then something more specific called In the News, where we're going to take an article and have our guests speak on the article a little bit and tell us why it's important in today's current and digital working world. Now, as a reminder, all Sikich Live shows are recorded and immediately available for viewing. But you will want to be live each week to enter our $50 gift card contest. So this is something new that we're doing. And today we have a $50 gift card to give away. We don't know what that gift card is. Our producer, Ryan, in the background is going to randomly show a gift card to us. And to win, all you have to do is add a question, a comment, or you can just say hello, hi, hey, Mike, how are you? Hey, Debbie, hey, Joe, into the comment section. A winner is going to be randomly picked at the end of today's live. So let's find out what that special gift card is going to be today. Ryan, take it away. Ooh, $50 Starbucks gift card is going to be able to get you Starbucks for, well, if each Starbucks is about $10 a drink, I don't know, 10 days. So anybody that is here today, don't forget, comment, say hello, ask a question. That's really what we want here on this live, is to be able to answer your questions right away. Anything Microsoft and manufacturing related, that's the topic for today. Now, everyone listening in, of course, can attest to the myriad of technology solutions out there for manufacturers. So in this constantly evolving digital world, of course, so why the heck should Microsoft be a top pick for your company? Here to help explain this is Joe Piombino. Did I pronounce that last name right, Joe?
Yes, you did.
Oh, phew. And also returning guest of many times, Miss Debbie Eltham. Hi, Debbie.
Hey, Mike.
Welcome to Sikich Live. Glad to have you here. Now, Joe, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself real quick?
Sure. I worked most recently at ITW, Illinois Toolworks in Glenview, Illinois, as the IT director for the specialty products business segment. ITW is a very diversified manufacturer made up of probably about 90 discrete businesses and divisions, each one falling within 7 categories: specialty products, automotive, electronics and test equipment, welding, construction, etc. And so we've gone through, over the last 7 years, quite a few changes and implemented quite a few deployments of Dynamics 365 in some of our divisions.
Yep. Well, thank you for being here with us, Joe. We really appreciate it. And Debbie, can we learn a little bit more about you?
Oh, I have never prepared for this. Hi, I am a senior director here at Sikich. Have been working in the Microsoft space, or the ERP space, for 30-something years, and with Microsoft almost since its inception in the ERP space. Spend a lot of time these days talking often more broadly around digital transformation for manufacturers, and spend a lot of time looking at how Microsoft applications can be successfully used by our clients to do business better.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for being here. Let's jump right into our first segment that is called Fact or Fiction. Each question is going to be followed by a fact or fiction answer. I should say each statement will be followed by a fact or fiction answer. Debbie, I'm going to give this first one over to you. And of course, Joe, Debbie, always feel free to chime in if you'd like to add a comment to any of these. Okay, first one for fact or fiction. Microsoft is the world's most commonly used manufacturing system.
So I'm going to say that's a fact. And the reason why is not because the reasons you might think. It's largely because a massive proportion of the global manufacturers in this world use Excel to manage their manufacturing. It may not necessarily manage their bills of materials, their production orders, or their scheduling, but it often does. So I'm going to put my stake in the ground and say that with Excel, Microsoft would be the world's largest manufacturing, most commonly used manufacturing system.
Interesting. That would make Microsoft the most commonly used financial system as well.
I would say so.
It's hard pressed to find any financial analyst or accountant who isn't buried in Excel most of the day.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, there we go, Michael. Fact.
Perfect. Next.
Unverifiable fact.
Unverifiable. There you go. Next fact or fiction. Microsoft knows nothing about manufacturing. They don't know anything. Joe, what do you think?
I would say that's fiction. I think they know quite a bit about manufacturing. From my experience in implementing Dynamics tools in many of our factories, it's not only easy to implement, but the core capabilities reflect best practices in manufacturing. And it's been very useful to me in my time.
Absolutely. Anything to add, Debbie?
Yeah, you know what, I would say that, maybe 25 years ago, that might have been the case. But with the introduction of ERPs into the portfolio, and then the intent to invest very heavily in those ERPs, there's a whole load of people at Microsoft now who actually know what a bill of materials is and a production schedule. And they have to, because they're developing one of the fastest growing solutions out there. So absolutely, that's a fiction, Michael.
Yeah. So Debbie, this next one's a pretty interesting one, I think, at least. So Microsoft, this is the statement, Microsoft is a distributor, as in a part of that industry.
True.
Yeah.
So, these days, I guess you could say that distributing applications that people buy online, Microsoft do that too. And I guess that's distribution these days because people sell software. But Microsoft also is a massive distributor in its Xbox business, which means that Microsoft itself has to, buy parts. It needs to schedule. It needs to plan. It needs to do all of the things, warehouse potentially, and distribute. We've got there's a website. You can go out and, buy your Xbox if you like. There's a distribution channel, which involves all the places that you would go and buy your Xbox. So in terms of actually being a user of a lot of these business applications, Microsoft is a distributor.
Yeah. I think that's always an interesting fact when they use their own, of course. So Microsoft, this is my next statement. Joe, I'm going to give this one to you. Microsoft is a leading enterprise resource planning, or ERP, provider.
I would say that is definitely true. And I can relate this to my experience. I spent many years prior to being with ITW at Motorola, which was a very centralized organization. And we were a large user of things like Oracle, PeopleSoft, apps like that. And when I went to ITW, I was surprised by the amount of Microsoft applications and the footprint that Microsoft had in the ERP space. In fact, we had multiple, hundreds of different ERP implementations throughout ITW, and about 20% of them were Microsoft footprint applications of some form, either new or legacy. So I was surprised myself when I left a very centralized organization to see the extent of Microsoft's footprint in the ERP space.
So Debbie, I'll give you number 5 here. Microsoft spends $5 billion on R&D annually, research and development, of course.
Fiction.
How much?
Oh man. Yeah, you put me on the spot here, but it's a hell of a lot more than $5 billion.
A lot more, yes.
Yeah, I think that's in double digits billions. Michael, you're going to have to help me out, but was it 15 billion or 30 billion or something like that?
When we looked at it, it was about 30 billion.
Yeah, that's right. So huge amounts of money. Look, admittedly, it's not all going into business applications. Obviously, the rest of them, including Xbox, get a share of that. What's fun, though, is we're starting to see the spend in areas of the Microsoft overall products portfolio that are impacting business applications. So, some of the technology that's been worked on and things like Xbox and Office and Teams, we're now seeing bubbling up and surfacing within the business application space that we typically work. So although you wouldn't say the whole 30 billion is spent on business applications, ultimately a large portion of that goes and sits on your desktop when you go to work.
Yeah.
I have to correct myself. It's 20 billion.
20 billion. There we go.
20 billion. I want to be exact here. More than 5.
Yeah, more than 5.
Excellent, right? I mean, that's even one thing when you think about, when people say, oh, is the cloud secure? Is, security concerns, things like that. No company is going to be able to spend that type of billions of dollars on those types of things. So it can be a little more rest assured, of course. So excellent. Well, that's all I have for Fact or Fiction. Now we will move on to a little bit of Q&A. So, Debbie, what products and services does Microsoft offer to manufacturers? And of course, Joe, jump in here whenever you'd like.
Okay, so I could tick them off. It's ERP and CRM. There's guides, there's HoloLens, there's field service applications, there's the Microsoft 365 applications, Excel, as we've discussed before, SharePoint, there is the Azure cloud, there is Teams, there is Viva, there is employee experience, customer experience, manufacturing experience. I'm going to say from a business perspective that Microsoft offers probably almost anything you want for manufacturers. So, I know that we're focused today on maybe ERP, and that's management of inventory and production and so forth and financials. But I think what you need to do is step back and see that the products range and the touch points throughout a manufacturer where Microsoft actually sits is just phenomenal. And again, I go back to that $20 billion in R&D that's going out there, and a lot of that is invested in products that can be of use to most manufacturers these days. In this ERP space, I think I'll be a little bit specific. We have Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain Management, which is a targeted at mid-size and larger organizations, generally targeted at more global organizations. We have Dynamics 365 Business Central, which is a product, an ERP product that is targeted at the lower end of the market, mid-size to small business, with, again, a great level of functionality across the board. Both of the products, do production and scheduling, bills of materials, all of those sort of fundamentals that you'd expect from an ERP system. and they have a little bit of a crossover. At Sikich, a number of times we've gone in and helped clients work out which one may be better for them. It's a big decision for an organization to make, so that's something that we can offer because we work with both of them, helping provide people guidance on how to make a decision between the two. There's a reasonably material cost difference, but it's not always about the cost if the value is justifiable for the higher cost in something like finance and supply chain. So that's a pretty big part of what we do here at Sikich. Also, the CRM or customer experience sort of options, including sales management, sales and marketing, customer engagement, customer service, and of course the field service applications. So a whole bundle of other applications that can be used in conjunction or in addition to maybe an ERP that you've already got. We've also got some new products that are recently launched. Microsoft have brought out a supply chain insights tool, which may be of interest to manufacturers, and an intelligent order management tool, which again could be of interest to manufacturers who maybe want to modernize the footprint of technology, helping them in their manufacturing operation, but aren't ready or aren't prepared at the moment to look forward to modernizing their ERP. So there is a bundle of products and services. Mike?
Yeah, to tie in a little bit to what Debbie said about the cornucopia of applications that are in the Microsoft bundle. One of the advantages we saw in terms of Microsoft ERP, either Dynamics Business Central or D365, was the fact that there are so many other products that can be integrated easily with your ERP platform, particularly CRM capabilities, integration with things like SharePoint, integration with reporting tools, analytical tools like Power BI, for example. We've had several implementations of ERP where we found advantage to being able to integrate that easily, particularly relative to customer data and your customer master and your item master into our CE application, CRM, either for call center management, customer management, or field service. And so the integratability and the ability to have common databases and common stores across a multitude of applications that were facing the customer was to us a big advantage in selecting the Microsoft suite.
And so, Joe, why did you choose Microsoft with all the different solutions that were out there at your company? Why was Microsoft the one that you went with?
A whole bunch of reasons. I could talk about that for a long time. As I said, ITW is a sort of a conglomerate of many small to medium-sized manufacturing operations. And in terms of overhead, we had very much a drive toward the cloud for those businesses. We typically did not have large IT staffs to be able to support data centers and security and all the things that surround your ERP applications. So the cloud was really important to us. Ease of deployment, security and the capabilities that Microsoft offered, reliability and scalability, and the ability to ramp up quickly, and the ability to reallocate overhead from keeping the lights on toward more value-added capabilities, business analysis, driving business process change and supporting the business. So the cloud capabilities and the security and reliability that Microsoft offered was a big plus. I also mentioned the integration with other Microsoft applications, integration with CRM, CE, Power BI, particularly around field service. That was a big one for us. The ability to do that in terms of a roadmap, to be able to implement your ERP, your core ERP platform, your customer masters, item masters, master databases, and then build on that with subsequent applications that were in the Microsoft suite. That was very advantageous to us as well. One thing about Microsoft, the ubiquitousness of Microsoft on the desktop, and the fact that users have a good sense for the look and feel of a Microsoft application. They've used Excel, they've used SharePoint, maybe they've used other Microsoft desktop applications. And so when they see the CRM applications, it kind of looks familiar. And so the implementation task is eased a little bit because of that familiarity with the look and feel. And then obviously the core capability. Microsoft, in terms of our businesses, where we want to simplify our business processes before we automate. If we've done a good job of simplifying what we do, then when Microsoft brings best practices with their applications, again, the implementation is much more straightforward and more easily accepted by the business. Anything you would add there, Deb? Anything I might have missed?
You know what? I think you probably got the really important things. And I want to say that there are likely very, very niche products out there that are going to fit a particular need for a particular style of business. And they may bring features and functions that on appearances will be more suited to the way a particular type of organization or an industry are doing business. But what I want to do is say a lot of those things that Joe mentioned, which is the usability, the ubiquitousness of Microsoft on the desktop. It's not always that the best functions and features are the ones that will bring the most value to an organization. If you've got a fantastically functional system that does everything you think you need it to, but it doesn't do, it doesn't surface its data up to be available for Power BI or business intelligence or analytics. If the data is not easily accessible by pulling it out into Excel and then being able to push it back in with Excel, what on the surface may look like a really highly functional system may end up not actually having that high level of usability that you would find with something like the Microsoft applications.
Yeah,
that's what I'd add.
Yeah, to kind of play on that a little bit from what Debbie said, the opposite of that, in many cases, you may find that a best of breed application, say in e-commerce or in warehouse management, may be required for your business. We considered the fact that the architecture of the Microsoft applications are fairly open, and the skill sets out there in the world in terms of capabilities for partners, developers, etc., to be able to integrate or bolt on to those core Microsoft applications was an advantage to us. In many cases, where we wanted to do a B2B or B2C process with some of our distributors or our dealers or even end customers, and we wanted to go with a best of breed e-commerce application, it was relatively straightforward to integrate that application into our Microsoft backbone.
Yeah. So with all of this said, where do I go? Where does someone go if they want to learn more about using specifically Microsoft Dynamics 365 ERP or CRM?
Well, my phone number is, Michael, I think, that's something where like a partner like Sikich can come in. And most partners have some very, very clear industry expertise. So, for example, at Sikich, we do a lot of work in manufacturing, particularly in the industrial equipment, engineer to order, project-based manufacturers. We do, and within those broad categories, agricultural equipment, packaging equipment, scientific equipment. So we've got a really, what I would say, a superpower around that style of manufacturing. But we don't really do, process manufacturing. If you're out there making food or beverages in a very heavily process-orientated industry, Sikich are maybe not the right partner for you. So what you'll find within the Microsoft ecosystem is it's big enough to accommodate that level of speciality across the partners. And if you are a manufacturer of a certain type of food, for example, let's say a beverage manufacturer, there is going to be a partner out there in the Microsoft ecosystem that you should ring and talk to about how Microsoft will work for you. And I think if you're in the discrete manufacturing area, particularly around some of those more specialty goods, where you're doing some level of engineering, or you have a field service component where you sell and then service your products, then someone like Sikich is perfectly able to tell you exactly why the software and where the software will give you what you need to create the value you're looking for.
Sure. Excellent. Well, that's all I have for our Q&A segment. We don't have a whole bunch of time, and this next topic is pretty broad, but I would like to maybe ask a simple question. So let's get right into In the News. So, Joe, when we had talked a little bit ago, we looked at the article America's Broken Supply Chain from the Washington Examiner. And this is obviously an issue that is front page news everywhere. I mean, even in this article, it says logistics and supply chain management problems have gone from esoteric niche field to front page news and federal government priority. So my simple question that is not simple is can Microsoft technology help in these woes, help in these problems, alleviate, or maybe I should say, can Microsoft technology help improve visibility into people's supply chain?
Yeah. Interesting article that you mentioned, and it's very comprehensive, and it talks about a lot of things. The results of the consequences of the pandemic, and the backlog of demand. It talks about legislative issues and legal issues that impair the supply chain and the speed at which goods can be brought to market. But a key thing to me is knowing what you have and where it is and how you satisfy demand from your customers, regardless of the surrounding problems and issues that are impairing your business. The article mentioned this, but years ago, when I was a controller in finance, a friend of mine used to joke about this all the time. Back when competing with the Japanese was the problem du jour, and everyone was talking about Kanban and just-in-time inventory, we used to joke about, what we do here is just-in-case inventory. Just in case we get an order, we better have the inventory. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a fine line between, on the one hand, the optimum supply chain, and on the other hand, making sure you can satisfy your customers, and having a good demand management system, having a good process for understanding what you have and where it is in the pipeline, having a good tool that helps you to prioritize customers. One of the key challenges we've always had is, we have the inventory, but we have more orders than we have inventory. Who are the critical customers? Which orders do we fulfill first? What do we prioritize? What are those rules that we should apply to make sure that we're satisfying the 20% of our customers that we're doing 80% of our business with? And that's where I think good inventory management, demand management applications like what Microsoft offers is very important.
Absolutely. Debbie, anything to add?
No, just amplify Joe's sentiment. I think that how you deal with this big hairball of a problem is by being better at having that visibility that Joe talks about than your competition, and knowing who to service. I think that's really smart, is understanding that you will have to prioritize and who gets that priority.
Sure.
And it's about the data for sure, but it's about what you do with the data. And what are your business rules around how you're going to prioritize certain customers, why you're going to prioritize certain customers, what activities are most important, and how you leverage that data. And so that's when we talk about deploying ERP systems, it's about the technology, but it's also about the business process. It's about the knowledge that's got to go into that.
Wow.
You know, and I know we're close to time, Michael, but I
Yeah.
want to add to that,
Yeah.
that it's the value of the systems behind you that can tell you the answer when you ask the question, which are my customers that are most profitable?
Mhm.
So that's where the value of these systems lie, is that you're able to answer that question and know which one the customers that are contributing the most to your business.
Spot on.
Yeah. Well, Joe, Debbie, this has been an enlightening conversation. Really appreciate you both being here, sharing your expertise with us. Joe, I know Debbie, we'll see you again soon. Joe, we hope we have to have you back on. Thanks for being on Sikich Live.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, I do want to remind everyone, we talked a little bit about supply chain. We are going to be having a supply chain summit, Trends and Technologies, on December 7th from 10 to 12. It's a couple hours. We'll have a few sessions on supply chain problems and technology issues. We'll be talking a little bit about the labor shortage and Sikich's Head Start implementation methodology. So if you're interested in that, look out on our LinkedIn social media pages. We'll be sending emails out to get registered for that very, very shortly. Make sure to see us at www.sikich.com. You can also reach out to Joe or Debbie that was here today, myself on LinkedIn. I'm sure they'd be just fine with that. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see everybody next Thursday. Yep. Bye-bye. Thanks.